everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about a mistake that I have made so many times and that I continue to make again and again, and that is failing to realize until too late that I need to scrap my draft and start again. I have wasted like literal years on some of my projects trying to fit square pegs into round holes, trying to just ignore the problems, pretend they aren't there, just so that I can avoid having to start over. Which is weird because I've since realized that I kind of enjoy rewriting, like I believe in rewriting, but that is always the step that I try to dance around. Recently, I looked at a draft that I had been sitting on for a while, and only when I kind of sat back down with it did I realize that I had left a lot of gaps, there was a lot of stuff still wrong with it, and a lot of work to be done before I could bring it up to really just like a base level. So I came to the conclusion that I really had to ditch my plan A and go back to the drawing board, which is progress, because a few years ago, if someone had told me, like, you know what, your draft is actually a mess, you need to seriously rethink it, I probably would have gone catatonic. So it's encouraging to see a little bit of growth in myself, since I'm still very new to this, that even in this short time that I've been doing it, I've gone from that place to a place where I can look at my own draft and say, you know what, this is actually mostly garbage. I need to do some serious reevaluating. I've heard lots of seasoned writers talk about that. It's a totally normal thing, it is part of the process, but I feel like for those of us who are newer to this, it's also important to know that even reaching that point where you accept and decide that you're going to start again is a process in itself. For me, that process looks something like this. We start with stage 1. Normally, that is the denial stage. At this point, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. It's going to be the next Harry Potter. I feel like we've all been here. We love our projects, and sometimes that makes it hard to see the problems at least right away. Then I normally move into stage 2, which is the doubt comes in phase, a Hades Town reference. The doubt comes in phase is normally when I start to sense and see little problems popping up that I didn't notice before. But at this point, I'm really only seeing the tip of the iceberg, not the like giant underlying problems that are dragging the whole draft down. I'm not prepared to do anything drastic. That brings us to stage 3, knee-jerk edits. I talked about this a little bit in my soft writing video. This is the stage where all the problems are popping up at once and I go full whack-a-mole mode and I just start to slap solutions onto problems as fast as I can see them with as little work or reconstructive surgery to the draft as possible. So for example, instead of fixing or rewriting the improbable thing that happens in my plot, I'll write in a little conversation between characters explaining why it's really not that improbable. Reader, don't look too closely at this. Does it sort of patch the problem? Maybe, but it's definitely not the best solution and it doesn't really address the underlying issue. So knee-jerk edits are not something I advise, and I catch myself doing it a lot. Eventually, I reach stage 4, face it and embrace it. This is the phase which I find the most like emotional. It's kind of that point where I recognize that like, okay, I have to stop. Like I can't keep pushing through with this draft because something is obviously not working, but I don't really know what it is and I don't really have a way forward yet, so I just feel very stuck. This is the phase where I tend to like shut down as a human for a little bit. Not too long ago, I went through this with one of my drafts, and I remember I was doing laundry at one point and I just stopped in the middle of doing laundry and was just staring down into the laundry bin like a zombie, thinking so hard about the story and trying to force my way to a solution. And my mom walked by and was like, what are you doing? So that's, you know, a little picture of how useful I am, how functional I am when I'm in this phase. Normally, I can move relatively quickly from that phase where I'm just very overwhelmed and kind of depressed about the fact that my draft isn't working into stage 5, which is the back to the drawing board phase. This is where my logic kicks in again and I realize, okay, the whole thing isn't garbage. Like the idea is still good. It's just there are a few big problems that I need to address before I can really move forward. This is probably my favorite stage because it allows me to do what I like doing best, which is like soft writing and notebook work. It's also the most collaborative for me because it's the time when I'm most likely to bounce ideas off of other people. Normally for me, that's one of my older brothers because he's too nice to tell me that he has other more important things to be doing. What I normally do is make a list in my notebook of the problems I need to work through and then work through them one by one. So, you know, I might write, what is this character's deal? And then dedicate 5 pages to working through a possible solution until I reach a point where it's like, oh, okay, this doesn't work because reason X. Flip a page, right at the top, what is this character's deal? And start again with another slightly different solution. And I'll just keep doing that until I find one that I like. I know that that probably sounds really repetitive and tedious, and I'm sure it's not the best way, but I like it for a couple reasons. One, it makes me feel like I have looked at the problem from kind of every possible angle, which gives me more confidence when I do reach a conclusion that the solution I found is the best one and not just sort of the first one that I landed on. I also like it because I like working through the pros and cons. The more you do that, the more you can start to see like, okay, so I consistently liked this idea or this aspect in every single solution I came up with. How can I bring these things together into one solution that fixes all the problems? Eventually, back to the drawing board leads me to stage 6, which is the reward for all the hard work. This is the part where I can just sit down and start writing, and I found that my love for the story, my original love for the project, has been rekindled. I have more confidence in it because I've wrestled with the problems a little bit. I can see how this plan is better than the last plan, so it's all like a confidence booster, and it really helps to just breathe life back into the project and remind me why scrapping plan A was such a necessary part of the process. So that is my like write, rewrite cycle in a nutshell. Yours probably looks completely different. I find it helpful because I like to know what's going on in my head and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. For example, if I'm feeling super overwhelmed about a story, I can think, okay, am I feeling this way because I know that there's something fundamentally wrong with it and I'm just fighting that? Or Niki, you're doing knee-jerk edits. Why? You know this never works. Let's stop and reevaluate. At the end of the day, you know, starting over, writing a messy draft and scrapping it so that you can write another draft, that really is just part of the process. Most of us don't write perfect first drafts as much as we wish that we could. And for me, it's encouraging to know that that is something that I can expect, something that I can just work through one step at a time, and something that will get easier the more we do it. Hopefully that is encouraging to someone else too. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.